With the Final Fantasy VII Remake so close, and already having gotten a taste for it, I think it's time to round up all of my worries about the game before it comes out on April 10th. I've played the demo many times over, and I'm counting down the days until it finally releases, but there's still a lot we don't know, even with all the trailers Square's gifted us. There are lots of things to be excited about when a company updates a game by remaking it over 20 years later, but there's also high expectations from fans, especially since this game has Tetsuya Nomura as attached as a co-director. I'd like to focus on things directly related to the first part first, and save concerns about the future of the remake for last. To start things off, since this is a remake, there are set expectations from fans. So many fans of the original Final Fantasy VII love it to this day because it gives them a sense of nostalgia and they've created tons of memories with it, especially with how big the damn game is. I personally think this will bog fans' opinions down of the remake immediately. With this being an all-new experience, I feel as though fans might take offense to additions or changes as a challenge to their nostalgia. One comforting detail of the Final Fantasy VII Remake is that it is helmed by returning staff from the original Final Fantasy VII, but there have been lots of concerning story changes. Even from the final trailer, they've showed Meteor already, which originally doesn't come into play until Disc 2 of the original. The devs have also added a ton of new side characters in the remake, which could worry fans about how well the remake upholds the integrity of the original. Arguably, the biggest change in the remake is the battle system, which has already turned fans away who were attached to the turn-based battle system of the original Final Fantasy VII. To compensate for the lack of turn-based battle, the developers added a classic mode, which makes characters attack automatically so the player can focus on inputting commands. But will this hold up as well as the normal modes? So far, having tried the demo, it seems like it works fairly well, but we need to see how this will work with harder enemies or endgame builds. My next big worry for the 7 remake is because the original Midgar section is so short. I beat it in 8 hours in this casual playthrough here. What are they adding to make it so long? With about 40 hours of content, a lot of that has to be side quests. This exact same thing happened with another Final Fantasy game I loved, Final Fantasy XV. The game is so long because there are a lot of basic side quests that made the game feel a little repetitive. Are these additions of side missions and new characters just means of filling up the game's completion time? The extra story will be very good to have, but will it feel like it's interrupting the main story too much? Will these new characters feel out of place? For that, we'll also have to wait until it just comes out. Another issue I hope this game doesn't share with Final Fantasy XV is how useless the extra abilities were. In Final Fantasy XV, the sense of progression and extra utility is nice, but before the game's endgame content, as long as you were a decent level and had good weapons, the abilities and spells were just time savers. Except for the ring. The thing was useless. Of course, if you play any game, you can usually brute force it if you want, and if you played the demo, you'll know that spells are actually really important, but it's still a concern for me for the final game's materia. Now, on to my worries about there being multiple entries in the remake, especially since we don't know how the games will function in conjunction to each other. On the subject of materia, I am also concerned that Square will decide to show us too much materia in this first part of the remake. They've already showed us that enemy skills are materia in the game. In the original Final Fantasy VII, mastering enemy skills is one of the most rewarding things you can do, as the skills that you learn span throughout all 3 discs. So it's kinda strange, but of course welcome to see it so early on in the remake. We've also already seen the Nailbat, which is usually acquired just before the end of Disc 1 of the original game, leading me to wonder if anything else from the rest of Disc 1 or anything from Discs 2 and 3 will make it into the Final Fantasy VII Remake. In the same vein, we've already heard a lot of music from the original recomposed. I wonder how much music made its way into the first part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and how much is left for the other entries. With the Midgar portion of Final Fantasy VII being so short in comparison to the rest of the game, how many entries of the remake will we get? Purely guessing, it could be anywhere between 2 to 5 more games. Will the rest of the entries include the original side quests that fans remember, or will many of them be replaced with similar side quests to the first part of the remake? I think Square will definitely give us super bosses like Ruby and Emerald Weapon, but I'm worried about the smaller side quests from the original. If the game entries can't follow a trilogy format, will the flow of the main story feel stunted? I think Square can pull it off, but they're going to need to be careful to make each game, be it 3 or 6 games, enjoyable and comparable to each other. The last big concern I have for the Final Fantasy VII Remake is that there seem to be a lot of story changes already in just the first game. This is very exciting that we can get an updated story for the game, but how much of the story of the other entries will differ from the original, and will it be effective? I have lots of faith in the Square staff to update their story how they see fit, but all we can do is wait and see. Overall, I'm very excited for the Final Fantasy VII Remake, being an almost lifetime fan of the series, and have even secured myself a first class edition back in the fall of 2019. Personally, Personally, from what I have seen played of the remake, I will be pleased no matter what, but I know many fans are still skeptical. What do you think? Do you agree with my concerns? Please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.